So, we're about halfway through the year, at least at the time of me recording this on July 3rd, 2022. Hopefully it doesn't take me forever to get this thing edited and uploaded, but regardless, we're about halfway through the year, and I thought that this would be a cool moment to kind of just sit back and reflect on the movies I've seen so far this year. You know, I keep track of all the movies I watch on Letterboxd on my phone, and the other night I saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which marked my 20th film this year that I've seen. I'm talking, of course, 2022 releases. I've seen 20 so far. Not super proud of that number. I'm not super disappointed in it either. I obviously wish that I could watch more movies more often. But being a student with a job, free time is few and far between, and you kind of just have to take what you can get. So yeah, that's where I'm standing right now at 20 films. I thought it would just be cool to briefly discuss each of them. I'll probably have like a tier list or something sitting in the corner, and I'll place each movie on a tier list. And I am going to try and keep each discussion a bit brief because, I mean, when it comes to movies, I'm hella passionate about movies, and I could talk about each one of these on this list for like hours on end. That would make for a superfluous video. So I'm going to try and be as brief as I can and also as vague as I can because I do want to avoid spoilers. But with that out of the way, yeah, grab a snack, grab a drink, and just let's hang out. Come listen to me talk about movies. So, the first movie I saw this year was Scream, the new Scream. Now, I'm a fan of the Scream franchise. Not like a diehard fan like most people are, but I really, really like the first movie. I think it's one of the best like slasher horror movies ever made. The sequels, I'm gonna be completely honest, I can kind of take or leave 2 and 3. I'm indifferent to 2. 3 I do think is a bit better than people give it credit for. 4 is good, but you know, this is about Scream 5, but they just called it Scream. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it justified its existence, but nothing more, really. I mean, I think the Scream franchise is kind of on its last legs right now, and of course they're making a part 6, but I really don't think it's necessary. But I enjoyed this movie for what it was. I thought there might have been a bit too many callbacks for my liking. It did kind of seem to rely a lot on the original film to succeed, which isn't a terrible thing, but I do wish it stood on its own 2 legs a bit more. Throwing this movie onto the tier list, I would probably put it middle of the road. I'd give it a C. Nothing like special, nothing amazing, nothing terrible. It is better than it had any right to be, I think, being the 5th movie in the Scream franchise. It was enjoyable. Next up, I saw X, continuing on the slasher trend. X I thought was really cool. I mean, as a slasher, and it's kind of by the numbers, like plot / structure wise. You know, you kind of reach the halfway point. That's when all the carnage goes down and ticking names off the list until you get to the final girl. It's definitely a slasher through and through in that sense. What gave it the edge, I thought, was the feel of it. It does feel very kind of like old school or old fashioned. Kind of gave me like Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. Like obviously I'm talking the original. It was a good movie. I'm not sure. I haven't rewatched it. I do kind of want to rewatch it, but I don't know how many subsequent viewings I would get out of this film. It was good for what it was. Basically about just a bunch of film crew going to like the middle of nowhere to record an adult film. It was cool. The premise was unique, even if at the end of the day, as a slasher, it was fairly by the numbers. Worth a watch though. I'm gonna put this one, give it above Scream. I put this one, give it a B. It was definitely above average because of the uniqueness of certain aspects of the film, even if as a slasher it's a bit more traditional. Alright, next up on the list we got Everything Everywhere All at Once, another A24 movie. I'm not even going to attempt to describe the plot of this film to you. I think it's something that you should definitely go and just watch. You should go in blind. I saw the trailer for it a while back in theaters, and I kind of forced myself to forget about it because I don't like watching trailers for movies. I feel like they just give away everything. So I went into this movie relatively blind. This is one of the most unique movies I've seen in my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think I ever will, not during my lifetime. And I love movies like that. I love movies that just blindside you, that just take you for a spin. I'm not going to attempt to describe the plot of this to you, but I will just say, like, everything is firing at full force in this film. The editing, the cinematography, the performances are incredible, the direction is amazing. There's so much to appreciate and love in literally every single frame of this film. And at the end of the day, it really is a heartfelt story. Throwing this on the tier list, I'm jumping all the way to S tier on this one. I have like zero complaints whatsoever. It's definitely in my top 10, if not top 5 of the year. Definitely top 5. And I would watch this film as soon as you can. It's incredible. Okay, next up, back-to-back bangers. We have my favorite movie of the year so far, by a decent shot, The Northmen. I absolutely loved this film. It's a revenge movie, and it's, at the end of the day, not really a new story. It's something we've seen a million times before. I mean, it is pretty much a reimagining of Shakespeare's Hamlet, so the story itself is as old as time. But what director Robert Eggers does with the material and the way he chooses to portray the character's journey from beginning to end, the imagery he uses is a lot of recurring imagery, especially that of a billowing volcano, which really it pays off in spades by the end. But the way Eggers chooses to tell this story does make it feel very fresh. He explores many different angles of like revenge and what it means to the main character, which is more than enough to differentiate this movie from other films of this genre. I was captivated by absolutely everything. Like I'm talking about the imagery. I loved the imagery, the plot. I mean, I like revenge stories, so instantly that kind of hooked me. The setting and the time period is very believable. As a Viking movie, I was in awe and immersed in the setting and everything that was going on. I mean, yeah, this is one I kind of have to be a bit brief on because I could sit here and talk about this film for like days and days. I think it's incredible. The last thing I'll say is that the final shot of this movie, the final image that Eggers chooses to leave you on is phenomenal. And it's honestly a big part of the reason why this is my number 1 of the year so far. Fantastic. Zero complaints. I could do a whole video about this damn movie, but we got to move on. Obviously, I'm putting this up there at the S tier as well, with Everything Everywhere. Zero complaints. All right, now moving on to The Batman. I was looking forward to this movie for quite a while, and I was really excited when I heard it was going to be 3 hours long. Now, my favorite portrayal of Batman is Ben Affleck's Batman, but my favorite series of Batman movies is the Nolan trilogy. I think the Nolan trilogy is an incredible, marvelous achievement in filmmaking, one that I doubt will be topped for a considerable amount of time to come. So it means a lot when I say that this movie is fantastic. I loved the Batman. I loved the more grounded, gritty, realistic nature. I know some people are kind of getting tired of that take on Batman, but I personally don't mind. I mean, I say keep it coming. As long as it's nothing, as long as it's something new, as long as it brings something to the table. There's a lot of influences that director Matt Reeves wears on his sleeve with this movie, namely the Nolan trilogy, the Arkham games, the Long Halloween. The performances are phenomenal. Robert Pattinson gives us a great Batman / Bruce Wayne. Paul Dano kills it as the Riddler. There's a lot of great dynamics at play here. Characters play off each other very well. It just felt like a crime movie at the end of the day that just happened to feature a character named Batman. And that's what made me love it so much. Now for 3 hours, I will say there's a couple of scenes I probably could have done without. So I'm not going to put it at the S tier. I'm going to put it right below that. And I'm going to give the Batman an A on the tier list. Uncharted. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted games, and the movie I thought through and through was a letdown. It just felt like someone played the games and just chose their favorite moments from each games and just turned those into set pieces in this movie. But the similarities to Uncharted are the game are very few and far between. It really just feels like your generic action-adventure movie that just happens to feature characters named after the games. I like Tom Holland as an actor. I like Mark Wahlberg as an actor, but Tom Holland is not Nathan Drake, and Mark Wahlberg is not Sully. I couldn't buy into this movie really at all. Forgettable. I mean, it's not horrible. I don't hate it. At the end of the day, it's a fun enough action-adventure movie. But it's not Uncharted. It's just not. Throwing it on the tier list, I'm going to give this one a D. Doesn't really deserve an F, but it's really not. It's not even average. It's just below average. All right, next up, another kind of middle-of-the-road movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is a very rough around the edges film. The original cut was 3 hours long. What we got was 2 hours long. So, I mean, clearly there's an hour of material missing, and you can really tell. You can tell that this is kind of a sloppy, choppy, put-together movie. You can tell that Sam Raimi came to direct a half-finished movie and kind of had to put the pieces together. You can tell watching this what scenes are his and what scenes are not his. And it's kind of sad because I do like Sam Raimi, but you can this movie's just very rough around the edges, and I don't I don't know why. I mean, it could have been really good, but it just wasn't for me at the end of the day. There are things I really liked. I liked Wanda's portrayal. I liked her portrayal as a villain. I thought she chewed up every scene she was in. I enjoyed her, like, villainous moments, but not really enough to rescue this movie from the depth of mid for me. And I'm putting this right next to Uncharted, giving it a D. It's below average, but not an F. The next two movies I'm going to talk about kind of in the same vein, Jackass Forever and Jackass 4.5, because they're both going to get the same spot on the tier list. Now, I enjoy the Jackass movies. I'm not like a diehard fanatic of the Jackass movies, but they're fun. You know, they're kind of fun movies where you can just sit and chill and lay back and enjoy a bunch of people fucking with each other, and you know, you don't have to worry about a plot or character. You just sit back and enjoy it, right? But I mean, that is kind of what they are at the end of the day. There's nothing more to them. They're just kind of mindless, brain-dead fun, but it is fun. I enjoy watching the Jackass movies, but I'm going to put these two movies at a C on the tier list just because it's kind of difficult to, like, talk about these in the context of, like, other movies that are actually, you know, movies, like scripted narrative films. So I'm giving them a C. I mean, it doesn't mean I dislike them. It just means that, like, at the end of the day, they're just, to me, just fun, mindless fun. And it's kind of middle of the road in that sense. Now, if I'm like making a video just about Jackass, like, it'd be a different story. But alas, that's where it falls among the rest of these movies, and that's what it is. Let's see. Moving on, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie was not good. F. Crimes of the Future. Now, Crimes of the Future is one that I need to watch it again. I only saw it one time. I absolutely need to watch it again. I know that there are things that I'm missing with this movie. I absolutely know that for a fact. I feel like I understood it fairly well, but I know that there's things I'm missing. I'm putting this at a B right now. It could go up to an A upon rewatch, but I don't know. I enjoyed what I saw. I could tell I was watching something sophisticated and something a little bit above my pay grade. I'm not a really frequent watcher of Cronenberg films. The last one I saw was from his son, Brandon Cronenberg, Possessor, which I loved, but that's neither here nor there. Crimes of the Future was a great movie, I thought. I mean, the performances were great, the atmosphere was great. I did enjoy it, but I need to watch it again to fully appreciate it. For now, I'm putting it at a B. Okay, moving on. Another fucking stinker. Not Crimes of the Future, like Texas Chainsaw was a stinker. Jurassic World Dominion. Ooh boy, I hated this movie, but I'll at least talk a little bit about it. I'm not going to skip over it just like Texas Chainsaw. I love the original Jurassic Park. It was super important to me as a kid. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that movie. It had such a momentous impact on my imagination, on my love for dinosaurs, on my appreciation for movies. I mean, nothing is ever going to beat that T-Rex breakout scene, man. And Jurassic World Dominion just feels like a disrespectful slap in the face to, like, real fans of Jurassic Park. I don't know. I mean, I know some people liked it. I'm sure it has its place, I guess, as, like, really mindless entertainment. I mean, I get that in a movie like this, you need suspension of disbelief, but there are some, like, truly just downright unbelievable moments that I just couldn't get behind. And I mean, I wish that was the only problem I had with the movie. It's terrible. It's not fun. It's not what I would have expected the grand finale of the Jurassic Park franchise to be. It's just, I really didn't like it. I'm putting this right next to Texas Chainsaw. F. We gotta move on before I start ranting. Okay, now on the opposite end of the spectrum, Cha-Cha Real Smooth. That was a great movie. I loved it. I had never heard about the writer/director/actor Cooper Raiff. I hope I'm saying that name right. Never heard of the guy. I'd never heard about this movie until like a day before I decided to watch it. I was just scrolling through Apple TV. I stopped at a banner of Dakota Johnson, like any sane straight man would. And I was like, oh, look, new Dakota Johnson movie. I should check this out. Add it to the list, watch it the next day, and I loved it. It is a romance/drama/ kind of like coming of age film. And with these kinds of movies, you can tend to like expect it to be a bit too dreamy and like sappy, and it kind of can sometimes feel like the writer lives in like fairy tale land. Like you're watching this movie and you're like, this isn't how real life works. It's just not. And this movie certainly has those moments, but it's offset by just the mature nature of like the dynamic between Dakota Johnson and Cooper Raiff's characters. There really is this mature, layered, three-dimensional relationship at play here. And it didn't end the way I thought it would. and I really appreciate it for that. I'm being vague, just like I kind of have been with all these movies, because I really hope this video like prompts you to listen to what I say about these movies and then go watch it for yourself. So I don't want to, like talk too much about them. I thought it was really tender, heartwarming, and emotional story. I certainly didn't expect how deep it got. I thought it would be a bit more surface level, but again, I'd never heard of this guy. I mean, this movie kind of makes me want to go watch his other work. I'm kind of hoping it's just as three-dimensional as this movie is. But throwing this onto the tier list, I'm gonna give it an A. Not quite S. I mean, I love it, but A. S is like mind-blowing, like fucking phenomenal, like zero complaints whatsoever. So next up, now we have Kimmy. Kimmy's another one, kind of like Cha-Cha Real Smooth, that I had only heard about a few days before I decided to watch it. I was just scrolling HBO Max and saw it. I'm like, oh, Zoe Kravitz. She was in the Batman, huh? And she gives an incredible performance in this film. She's the lead. Like, a good 70-80% of the movie takes place in her apartment, in one location. We're following her for a really long time in the film. It's a pretty brief, like hour-and-a-half thriller, but it's an effective thriller. It's like kind of science fiction-y a little bit. In the future, there's these like Amazon Alexa-esque devices called a Kimmy that, like just listen to everything. You know what Alexa does, just dial that up to 11 pretty much. I mean, I thought it would, the themes are like really resonant in today's time. The film is just kind of about, she works as like tech support for these Kimmy devices, and one day she just kind of finds like an audio string that seems a bit questionable, and she explores it further. But what really throws this movie for a loop is the fact that the main character has agoraphobia. And this movie takes place during COVID as well, so you could tell there's a lot of factors at play here that the main character has to tackle. And I enjoyed my time with this movie. I thought it was really good. I'm gonna give this one an A as well. Yeah, put it right next to Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Give it an A. All right, moving on. This one's a bit more recent. The Black Phone. I remember seeing trailers for this movie like last year when it was supposed to come out last year, and it's finally in theaters. It's a Blumhouse movie, so the production's pretty good. I mean, it's really good. And this reminds me a lot of It, kind of, in the sense that it follows these group of kids that are, that are one by one being kidnapped by Ethan Hawke's character, the Grabber, which I thought he played to perfection. I loved his performance in this movie. It kind of feels like a Stephen King story almost, but it's not. I know this movie's based on a short story of the same name, so I know it's not just some whole made-up thing, but I really, really enjoy the children's performances in this film, namely that of the main character's sister. I thought she stole the show. Like, god damn, like, you're just a little kid. But really, really good. And the movie's a lot more vague than I thought it would be. It leaves a lot more open to interpretation than I thought it would regarding its main antagonist and the whole Black Phone, and there's a lot that it wants you to think about. I thought it was going to spoon feed me more than it did, so it was a nice surprise when it didn't. Really good, excellent movie. Ethan Hawke did fantastic. I loved his character, the Grabber. There's a lot of themes of like trauma and abuse and such that is portrayed here that makes this movie a lot more mature and darker than other, kidnapping kind of movies. Throwing this on the tier list, this is a solid A, honestly, solid A. I know we had a lot of A's back to back, but some pretty good movies have come out this year. Okay, moving on, we've got Hustle. Now, I enjoy sports dramas, even if they're all kind of more or less the same, with a few exceptions. But Hustle is kind of one of those, like, by-the-numbers sports dramas, which doesn't make it bad, it just makes it's nothing new plot-wise. The real reason to watch this, I think, is for Adam Sandler. I thought his performance elevated the movie tenfold. I think without him, this would have been very average and very forgettable. But Adam Sandler really makes his role his own in this film. The movie kind of follows like him. He's a down on his luck like NBA scout looking for the next star for his team. And the dynamic between him and the athlete he eventually does meet is really charming. It's impossible to ignore the like infectious charm of it. But plot-wise, story-wise, structure-wise, this movie brings absolutely nothing new to the table. It has one like claim to fame, and that's Adam Sandler's performance. Thankfully, it's a really good performance. Like I think he disappears into his role, and I hope movies like this and Uncut Gems really show people that what you consider to be a bad actor, it's really more so due to the nature of the movies that said actor is in. I mean, Adam Sandler is not a bad actor. He's proved that with this movie. He's proved that with Uncut Gems. The guy just happens to be in a bunch of shitty movies. It just is what it is, you know? I mean, it sucks, but I'm glad movies like this exist to show audiences that, like, no, Sandler can act. I mean, clearly he can when he wants to, or when he's given the right material. Throwing this onto the tier list, I'm going to give it, I mean, it's a little above average. I'm going to give it a B, you know? It's not, it's unfair to say it's completely average, because even though the plot is average and that it's nothing new, the performance does elevate it. Okay, next up we got Dog. Now, Dog is a bit similar to Hustle in that for its genre, it's nothing new. It's another one of those more or less by the numbers of like what you would expect a road, like a buddy / road movie like this to be, especially with a man and a dog. But what drew me into this was the fact that it's Channing Tatum's directorial debut. He co-directed this movie based on pre-existing source material. I think it's a short story. And again, kind of like Hustle, it is average. It's a little less average than Hustle, unfortunately. I mean, there are some questionable plot conveniences here and there, but it's not It's not bad. It's not even bad. Not even close to being bad. It's just really, really average. What drew me in is also the movie's biggest success. Is I think that Channing Tatum shows a lot of potential here, stepping into the director's chair. And I think several years down the line, if he continues to direct, he really could come out with something special, because he's committed. He stars in it as well, if that wasn't already obvious. He stars in the movie as well. And his performance is a serious, committed one. It's not like the comedic roles he's always in. And I found enough to appreciate in this movie for it not to be completely throwaway and forgettable. It's really, I feel like it's more of like a showcase of Channing Tatum's potential than it is like an actually great movie. It's really not bad, and the relationship between him and the dog is heartwarming. I mean, like you would expect it to be. But I mean, honestly, I personally don't think I'm ever going to rewatch this. Maybe once or twice when I show it to friends, but I don't see myself coming back to this movie. I am glad I watched it. Putting it onto the tier list, I'm probably going to put this one middle of the road. I'm going to give it a C. It's unfair to call it a D, I think, but it's a bit too much to put it at a B. So, middle of the road. Okay, next up, we've got Death on the Nile. Let me get this out of the way first. I'm from Egypt. I was born in Egypt. I've been back there several times. I've seen the pyramids first and foremost. I mean, I know Egypt. This movie features one of, if not the most inaccurate portrayal of Egypt I've seen in my entire life. When the movie begins and it has these wide shots of Egypt, I almost laughed out loud. The visuals are horrible. The CGI, the green screen, the VFX are like literally embarrassingly bad. I don't know if it was a problem of budget. I mean, this is a sequel to Orient Express. I figured a sequel would get more money. I don't know what it is, but the visuals are like terrible. Egypt looks like a video game loading screen. Actually, speaking of video games, y'all know Assassin's Creed Origins, that game that came out a few years ago? That portrayal of Egypt looks better than this. I'm serious. With that grudge out of the way, though, it is a pretty competent murder mystery movie. I enjoyed the performances from the cast. They all felt very dedicated. I enjoyed the pacing. It was paced pretty well, honestly. For a 2-hour movie, it didn't really feel like 2 hours. And it does keep you guessing. I kept on pointing my finger at different people throughout the movie, like, did they do it? Did they do it? It's really old-fashioned. The movie feels very old-fashioned, especially in its dialogue and the set design, even like the blocking of certain scenes. It does feel really old-fashioned, and that's definitely going to turn off some people. It didn't turn me off too much. The visuals did. Throwing it onto the tier list, I'm going to give it a C. I think it's not deserving of a B. I think if the visuals were a bit better, maybe you'd get a B, but I'm putting it at C right now. All right, we got 2 more movies. The House. Now, The House was not on my radar whatsoever. Didn't know about it. My girlfriend actually showed me this movie, and it's stop motion. And every time I watch a stop motion movie, I tell myself, like, dude, you need to watch more of these, because I really respect the talent, the effort, the dedication that goes into stop motion filmmaking. It's not easy. I mean, I've seen behind the scenes, and it's like an incredible achievement. Now, this film focuses on a house, as you'd expect, and there's 3 entirely separate narratives going on, not like intertwining. Like, there's literally like one story ends, second story ends, third story, and it all revolves around these different tenants of this same house over different periods of time. It's like a dark comedy / tragedy. I'm gonna kind of leave it at that, because this movie I thought was really rewarding. I really enjoyed my time with this, even if I did think that the third act, again, there are 3 entirely separate stories. Even if I did think the third act was the weakest of the three. I kind of don't like that the final story was the weakest one, but yeah, it is what it is. Still not a bad movie. I really enjoyed it. Definitely probably the most unique movie on this list, if not Everything Everywhere, but definitely worth a watch. It was on Netflix when I saw it. I don't know if it's still there. Probably, though. Throwing it onto the tier list, I'm giving it a B. Definitely above average. If the third act was as strong as the first two, I could definitely see myself giving this an A. But as it stands, getting a B. Okie dokie. Last but not least, I'm glad we're ending on a high note. But remember in the beginning, I said I saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That's the last movie. And it is exceptional. I fucking love it. I have zero complaints whatsoever. I mean, you probably already know where I'm going to rank it now that I've said that, but I had zero complaints with the Massive Talent. I mean, I just watched it again last night with my friends. It's just so good, and it's so rewatchable. I mean, I enjoyed it more the second time for sure. The performances are amazing. Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal have undeniably afflicting chemistry. It elevated the movie so much for me. The meta humor was on point. This movie knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it accomplished it in spades. The meta humor was fantastic. If you don't know the plot of this movie, I'm not even going to spoil. I'm not even going to say anything. All you need to know, if you want to watch this movie, is that the meta humor is incredible, and performances are incredible. The pacing as well the pacing is really bouncy and energetic. You're never bored at all. At least I wasn't bored. And yeah, superb. If you haven't guessed it already, this is definitely going up in the S tier with Northmen and Everything Everywhere. And that's it, guys. Those are all 20 movies that I saw this year. I kind of wish I could talk more about some of these, but I was trying to be brief and keep it moving because I can get distracted pretty easily and just start talking nonstop about any one of these films. So regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did make it this far in the video all the way towards the end, I do appreciate it. I'm very aware when I make these videos that people take time out of their day to watch my videos and listen to what I have to say, and it's not lost on me whatsoever. I really appreciate it. That knowledge is what keeps me making these videos. If you enjoyed what you see, if you like what I do, consider subscribing. It encourages me even more to make these videos. Drop a like if you enjoyed this particular one. Comment below, have you seen all the movies that I've seen? Have you seen some that I haven't seen? Vice versa. What do you think? Do you love, hate the video? Do you agree with my opinions? Do you think I'm just a big, fat, stupid buffoon who doesn't know what he's talking about? Let me know. And until next time, guys, peace out. Take care of yourselves. Love each and every single one of you. Peace.